welcome back, everyone, to another CC Football Podcast episode. I have Clay, as always, with me, and also my good friend, roommate, and good friend of the podcast, Hemant. Boys, how are we doing?
Doing swell.
Doing great.
Life is good.
I also have my tiramisu shake from Shake Shack, which is a new flavor.
Potential sponsor, Shake Shack.
Yeah, we
If you're watching.
This is not a paid advertisement. Shake Shack, if you're watching.
But we are, we are open.
We're actually, fun fact, we have a big announcement coming up soon. Clay, what's going on with your lighting there?
Sorry, I unplugged my external monitor. I wasn't using it.
That must be like a Chelsea lava lamp lit up in blue.
Yeah. It's just super old, and so it's like one of those things that when there's no signal, it says like it goes in blue, and it's like no signal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, although word on the street is after Liverpool's recent performances, Clay is looking for a new club to support.
And he is feeling blue.
Yeah, most likely that club won't be Chelsea. But speaking of switching things, we do have a big announcement coming up, so stay tuned. But we can't announce it yet, but we're all super excited about it. And it will include Hemant, so if you're a fan of Hemant on the show, then you know, this might be relevant. Okay, what do we got today, Hemant?
Gents, we got some fun stuff planned for today. We have three main topics of discussion, three main segments for you. First, we're going to be recapping the most recent week, match week. So we had a lot of great games, a lot of interesting storylines there. So we're going to be rematching some of those and then going into some others in more quick fashion. Then we are going to be recapping.
Wait, don't give it all away.
Oh, the second.
Yeah, don't
topic.
give it all away.
Yeah, I'm not
surprise
giving it all
us.
away.
We want to surprise us.
Okay.
With your agenda. Just tell us the first topic of discussion.
That's the first topic.
Okay.
And the third topic, there might be a fun game.
Ooh, very suspenseful.
I wonder, Clay, if we run the numbers, I wonder who's won more games between you and me.
I think my money's on me.
Yeah. Agree.
See?
Okay,
It's unanimous me.
We'll let today's game decide.
Okay. Sounds good.
Today, we'll start counting from today. All right. Well, into the recap of the latest match week. So we had a lot of great games. Where I wanted to start was the most recent fixture, and that was, of course, Tottenham and Manchester City. Mm-hmm. So Manchester City, they traveled to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and they lost and actually looked very flat. Played pretty dull, I guess you could say, through the match. And Tottenham, they were in control, even though they were in their counter-attacking state. Big fixture. Craig, you've talked about this as one of the biggest fixtures in England and huge
in the world, in the history of the
football.
Football.
Okay. And also huge ramifications there. So, Craig, I'll let you start this because this fixture has a special place in your heart.
Yeah, it has a special place in my heart because I'm a Manchester United fan and I hate Tottenham. But the reason it has a special place is because it never fails to disappoint. Today, honestly, as we were talking about this, on a relative scale, Hemant was saying of like Manchester City Tottenham matches over the last 4 years, this was actually relatively boring. And it was still a good game, and Tottenham won 1-0, which, of course, going into the game, City are always going to be the favorites, but it never turns out that way. And what was it? City have gone there 5 times now. Not only have they lost all 5, they haven't scored a single goal in all 5 visits to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But yeah, I think overall, at least what I saw, because I actually missed a lot of the first half, but it seemed like a deserved result. City didn't really threaten the goal. I think you mentioned we didn't even hear Haaland's name. You barely saw him on the screen. And Tottenham, when they got the ball, they were defending really solidly, and when they got the ball, they were like lightning quick in attack. They created way more chances than City, and so they deserve to win. It's been What are your thoughts? It's definitely been an interesting season because City are definitely doing a lot better than Liverpool, which we'll talk about later. But still, I mean, those have been the giants over the last couple of years, and even City is starting to look a bit shaky, which we haven't really seen over the last 3-4 years in like an extended period of inconsistency.
Yeah, I think that one main thing for me that I take away is that, of course, City are considerably worse the 1 year that Liverpool is not contending. But yeah, Craig, I agree that like they seem to be looking way more, I guess, human than like a normal side, like than they have the last 5 or 6 years when they've been dominating the Premier League alongside Liverpool. Yeah, I don't know what the reason is other than the fact that, I mean, it's kind of, you can say the same thing for Liverpool, that some of their players must have just taken a step back, or that they've gotten fatigued with winning. I guess, like if you haven't reached the levels that you are trying to reach, then you're more hungry to get there. Kind of like you see with Arsenal, like where they have, almost to a fault, that some people say they have players that aren't experienced enough, and they're doing this for the first time, which is part of the reason why they brought in Jorginho. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that this is really Arsenal at this point. It's Arsenal's championship to lose, and we're seeing that with the inability for City to put a run of form together, and then the rest of the who you would presume to be the contenders, the Chelsea, Liverpool. I mean, Manchester United has taken a step up, but I don't know if they're at the title contending state yet. Um, and Arsenal look to be the only team to be up for lifting the trophy right now.
Yeah.
Whoa. What? Although they just lost to 19th place Everton.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the season as a whole. Like, I would say that was kind of an anomaly of a result.
It's really interesting because with the Guardiola side, you wouldn't expect them to look like they did, and for them to even have sort of a kryptonite. That's what we talked about earlier. It's like Spurs are their kryptonite.
Yeah.
And I don't know how often this has been said on this podcast, but to talk positively about Spurs, there's a lot to call out.
We don't do that.
Yeah, Clay Traoré is not here yet right now, so we don't have to appease him to let him talk about Spurs positively. But let me say one thing about City is that watching them this year, especially since the end of the World Cup, I have noticed that they still you look at the possession stats and whatever, they're always largely in their favor. But if you watch the games, they don't have that incisive tempo, I guess. Everything is so much slower. Like if you watched City when they go on these 12, 13, 14 win streaks, it's because they are truly decimating their opponents, and they basically every 2 minutes they're having a clear-cut chance, and I just haven't been noticing that this year when you watch them play.
Yeah, I think somebody, maybe Peter Drury, mentioned in the commentary that it's like City had they had potential opportunity on the wings, but because of their style of play, they were more likely and happy to try and pass the ball through the center, and maybe going through the wings would allow them to change the tempo, like you're talking about, Clay.
Yeah. And then I'll say one last thing about the City, and then we can move on. But I think City have. We should probably also congratulate reluctantly Harry Kane on breaking the record, becoming the new Spurs all-time highest scorer, 200, and hitting 200 Prem goals. So I think he's only 8 away from Wayne Rooney now, which as a United fan, that's sad, but that's awesome. Good for him, and hopefully he can break it as a United player next year. But the thing I would say about City is, what was I going to say about City? What were we just talking about? The style of play. I actually think that the difference between City and let's just keep in mind, we're obviously reacting to City having a poor run of form, but they're still overall having a really good season. They're only 5 points off the top, right? Arsenal drop another game and they're right there. But I think before the World Cup, City they did have a lot of games where they were looking very incisive and even more dangerous because of the way the form Haaland was in and stuff that they did before. And I think that's the biggest difference for me between watching City and then watching For example, the other teams that are having a tough season are obviously like Liverpool and Chelsea, the other big teams. And I think that Chelsea and Liverpool, I mean, they've all had good games, right? Like 1 or 2 good games over the course of the season, but they didn't, even before the World Cup, it's not like they were really looking that good. Like Liverpool was suspect, all season. They had that one big win, right? Was Bournemouth or something that they had a big win against?
I don't know.
It's an eternity.
Yeah, but other than that, so that's the reason that I think City, I don't really know what's gone wrong. To your point, maybe it is some sort of, I don't know, like they can't be motivated to win, and I don't know, players are tired from the World Cup, fixture fatigue, I don't know, but I think that I don't know. I think Pep can fix it. I think that we've seen enough this season that this not like Liverpool and Chelsea. It's very clear. Chelsea now have too many players, so now I don't know if it's clear anymore. But Liverpool, the problems are very clear.
Yep.
You can talk about the problems with. First of all, you can talk about the problems with the owner. You can talk about the problems with Klopp's decisions. You can talk about the problems with the players, how they're aging. They're not the right players. Creativity, blah blah blah. Missing Mane, injuries. It's very clear. City, I don't think, because they were able to perform before, I don't think they have any of those problems. Not the owners, not the managers' decisions, they have the right players. So I think that I don't really know what's going on, but I think it can be fixed. That's the last thing I have to say at City. I think that it'll kind of be really sad for them if they won't have really any excuse if they don't put up a fight for the title.
I wasn't, to be clear, I wasn't like trying to compare City's season at all to the Liverpool's or Chelsea's. I was just saying that the teams that you would figure that would be contending for the title this season aren't up to it. And that's why I was saying that Arsenal are in a really good position to win it. But focusing on, like you said, focusing on the Tottenham and Manchester City game, I mean, this is just another one of those games from City that I've seen like probably 3 or 4 in a row now where you just look out there and they just don't have the intensity that they usually do from a Pep team. But, kudos to Tottenham. I mean, they played their game that, you've kind of grown to expect from a City versus Tottenham fixture where they'll soak up the pressure and then be lethal on the counterattack. And this time it only took one chance or one converted chance from Tottenham to score. And likely they have one of the, if not the best striker in the world, up there to finish it for them.
It could just be that. It's just a bad matchup for City. So, props to Tottenham. Congrats to Harry Kane. Shout out Emerson Royale, who had a man of the match worthy game.
Yeah, of course. And then their big signing that the whole transfer saga was revolving around Pedro Porro doesn't even get a minute because Emerson's playing the match of his life.
Yeah, Clay Troyer, our other, who you guys are probably familiar with, all our loyal listeners. Clay Troyer, he actually started Pedro Porro in our fantasy leagues this week, and obviously he got 0 minutes, 0 points. So
yeah, one of 8 Spurs players he started. And the last thing, Spurs they did this without Antonio Conte.
Yep.
Because Antonio Conte was away with a personal situation. So let's see if they can keep up this momentum.
Yeah.
All right.
We hope he gets well soon.
Yes. Moving on to Old Trafford, where Manchester United emerged victorious against Crystal Palace. They have been on a roll. They've been on fire lately. Marcus Rashford in the score sheet again. He's been on fire as well. A lot to talk about in this game. Of course, the Casemiro red card was very polarizing, maybe. Craig, I'll let you have first crack at this one. Where do you want to start with this one?
Casemiro red.
Okay.
I think the basic things we can get out of the way is, United, it was really important for them to get this win because you're right, they have been overall in a really good form. I think Ten Hag is now the quickest manager in history, a United manager, to get to 25 wins or something in his first 30 games or 35 games or something. United started the season off slowly with Brighton, the big losses to Brentford and Brighton, and which there was a lot of critique for him and the rest of the team, and they pretty much haven't looked back ever since. I mean, and Casemiro obviously has made a big difference, which is why it's so important that he got this red card, because he started playing after those games as well. But yeah, they've been in a good run of form, but we did back-to-back tie Crystal Palace and then lose to Arsenal. last week, and which was like a hugely pivotal week, right? Because no one kind of really thought we were going to lose to Crystal Palace because or we didn't lose, but win against Crystal Palace because of the form we were in. But, a lot of stuff happened that game. Casemiro got that yellow, and then they tied, which is an amazing free kick goal. Olise. And then the game against Arsenal was a great game, great match, and we ended up losing. And that's a huge loss because up until that week, people had just started talking about United being in the title race. Right, Clay? And you were just talking about United and saying they're potentially not in the title race yet. If that week went differently last week, then all of a sudden, people are definitely still talking about the title race because they've made up 6 points on Arsenal and they've had the 2 extra points from Crystal Palace. So it was really important for them to get this win, kind of put that week behind them and get the win. I think they did that. I think there's a clear winning mentality, and so game done, game won, move on to the next thing. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was the Casemiro red card. Because I don't think... here's the thing. I don't think it was a red card worthy offense with everything else that was going on the pitch. I think that, first of all, I don't know. I don't really know where to start. I think, I don't know what the rule is. If the rule is very specific and says basically anytime a player's hands even remotely touch kind of the area around someone's neck at all, it's an automatic red card, then sure. I guess by the book, maybe it should be a red card. But in that case, I think the rules need to be changed. Because the whole point of a red card is you want to prevent someone from doing something intentionally harmful. You want to prevent people from getting hurt. You want to prevent people from blatantly disobeying the rules. He wasn't doing any of that. Out of all the people who were actually fighting and get into it, Casemiro was separating Will Hughes from the fight, trying to not let him get involved. And yeah, I don't really know why he chose to do it by his collar. That's silly on his part. It wasn't that defeats the purpose of the red card. And if you are actually giving out red cards for the purpose of it, I think at least 7 of the other players there probably deserved red cards before Casemiro. And definitely we saw a video after of, I can't remember, I think it was Ayew, actually grabbing Fred's neck with malice as part of the fight in the scruffle that wasn't looked at because Casemiro's was just off to the side and more obvious for them to see. And these fights are part of football, and I understand the original decision was fine. A bunch of pushing, okay, give each side a yellow card, a couple players, that's fine. And the Casemiro red card is just ridiculous because if he's going to get a red card, then everyone else needs to get a red card. And everyone else getting a red card would be ridiculous because that's part of football. They don't deserve a red card. And so, I don't know. I don't know if it can be rescinded because I don't know what the rules are, but there is a lot of talk about Manchester United appealing it. So, I think we saw in the Arsenal game just how important and pivotal he is.
And you said one reason they might not appeal it is because there's a chance that his suspension gets extended.
Yeah, we got really lucky because it's a 3-game suspension. The 4th game, it's the FA, not the Premier League, right? That does these suspensions. So the 4th game is the EFL Cup final against Newcastle. And so if we appeal it and they reject it, then they have the option to make it a 4-game suspension, which would mean he would miss that final. So it's a touchy subject. Do we play without him? Fred, by the way, has been playing really well, in my opinion. He's been doing a good job, and now we just got Sabitzer. He looked decent for what we saw him. He looked committed to the cause, and he's a really, really good player. So, we'll make it through, but it's hard to overestimate how important he's been to the overall performance.
Yeah, I think that my opinion, because we got into you, me, and Clay got into a debate about the red card is that I don't think we properly conveyed our thoughts via text, as we ended up realizing that both of us didn't really understand what the other person was saying. But the point I was trying to make is that I could see after watching the replays why VAR gave the decision. I didn't say that that's why I thought it was a red or not, but there was one camera angle that you can look at, and it was pretty deceiving. It looks like Casemiro is choking Will Hughes. We both know that was not the case, and that even if it was unintentional, and he wasn't trying to let me bring you over here to the corner so I can choke you out, It was let me bring you over to the corner so you don't get into a fight with my teammate. But from the camera angle, you don't know that, and it's really hard to, if you just watch a 5-second snapshot of one guy reaching around someone's neck, you don't look at any of the other context, and you know that there's a fight going on, so emotions are probably heated and they're angry. You can see why VAR concluded that it could have had violent conduct or whatever that they determined was a breach of the rules. I don't think that it was, and like if you watch it again and if you watch all the angles and stuff, I agree with you, Craig. Like there was other instances in that scrum, and there have been other instances in other games that haven't been given as red cards that were way more violent and way more like malicious than what Casemiro did. And all I was saying is that I could see how it's like not such a injustice, that I could see why VAR was, I guess maybe tricked a little bit, from the from the videotape. And like there's a bunch of discussion about how like one of the main critiques about VAR is that it takes so long. Every single decision takes so long. So now in the back of their mind, whoever's watching the video is like, all right, let me like review all these shots that we have of this scuffle as quickly as possible, right, so that we don't, even if I make the right decision, I'm not still getting bashed for taking 20 minutes to do it, And so I think that's why, maybe that could lead to, not just in this case, but in other cases, VAR hastily making their decision and not looking at the full context involved.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like we need to get Hemant's thoughts on the game as well. He can't, poor guy's just moderating, not sharing his opinions.
Moving on. I didn't really have many thoughts. I didn't think it was a red card. I think what you're saying, Clay, makes a lot of sense at the camera angles they use, and this probably speaks to a bigger problem with VAR, like you're saying, that they need to not be kind of like cherry picky with what camera angles they use and not rush to conclusions, but also they should probably clarify that rule. Is it just like anytime hands are on the neck, hand on the collar? I think that definitely needs to be clarified. And it's unfortunate because it's overshadowing, the whole situation is overshadowing Manchester United's performance, which was a very good performance. My underrated take is that Casemiro wearing gloves actually led to the red card, because if he didn't have gloves on,
the contrast with the jersey.
Exactly. They would have been able to see where his hands actually were, but the gloves made his hands look bigger
and stand out more in the picture. Yeah, because they're wearing white jerseys. I see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was maybe all the players are wearing gloves these days,
but to be fair, for us, like, okay, yeah, it's unfair that VAR made the decision, but Casemiro is the one who put himself in that situation to begin with.
That I agree with.
And like, even if he had good intentions, like he was still the one who put his arms there and his hands there. Yeah. And for a midfielder of his experience and of his importance to his team, he should know that he shouldn't even be near that, like putting himself in that danger, and he shouldn't even be touching that risk.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that, and it is concerning in a way. We don't want this to become a habit. The Arsenal game was huge. Remember that the Crystal Palace game before the Arsenal match, everyone knew Casemiro has 4 yellows. A lot of people were saying don't even play him. Eric Ten Hag decided. He said, I win the matches in front of me. I don't do that sort of stuff. I see the match against Palace, I got to win it. So he started Casemiro. He played him even after we were up for a while until like really late in the game, which I disagreed with, as you guys are well aware. But Casemiro, he knew as well he was on 4 yellow cards, and he went. It was a definite yellow card, the one that he got, and then he missed the Arsenal game, which is huge repercussions. And I don't know. We don't want this to become a habit where every time right before a big game, especially with the FA Cup final, that was what everyone was scared about. Oh, is he going to miss the FA Cup final with this red card? We don't want him to be missing games for disciplinary issues, because we always say this about everything, Clay, on this podcast. It's like, whether we're talking about, teams are getting lucky, teams are getting unlucky, a player didn't deserve it. You can argue individual instances, but when you see something emerging over a trend, then that's when it becomes concerning. Even if you can argue each individual instance, you don't really want to. You know what I mean?
Right.
If a player keeps getting injured, of course it's unlucky, but you don't want them on your team, because that's a trend that's happening, right? It's the similar sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, do you know who Manchester United's next game is against? Looking forward.
Yeah, I think it's Leeds.
Wait, they have a derby.
Leeds,
Manchester United derby. So that'll be a big game. And they'll have to do it, of course, without Casemiro.
I think we play him twice, actually.
Back to back.
Like very close to that.
Wow. Those would be fun atmospheres. From one rising giant to another falling giant, we'll go to Molineux.
Oh,
Liverpool took the L to Wolves.
I don't think Wolves have fallen yet.
Oh.
Oh, ha ha.
Yeah. I mean, there's where to start here. Wolves, they look sharp. It was probably a much needed win for them in their situation. Liverpool woes continue. The Klopp out bandwagon is gaining momentum. Clay, where do you even begin with it?
It's absolute shitter of a performance. The team, I don't even know where to begin. There's so many issues everywhere, top to bottom. You know, can't score goals and can't defend, and that's how you lose games. And
That's not a good formula.
I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I don't even want to dissect the individual performance because, you know, to be fair, I don't think anyone really played that well. There were some chances created for us. We just weren't clinical. The first 2 goals were like defensive. I don't even know what was going on there. It looked like Harry Maguire is playing back there for Manchester United. But I mean, seriously, like you see, I think that Liverpool they have good center backs, but like you just have these players in the whole team that's just lacking in confidence from top to bottom. They don't even know how to like kick the ball anymore. It seems like, and the one thing for me that I was saying is that like especially the last month or so, is that Liverpool have actually conceded a lot of goals from set pieces, and you know, one of my big like critiques of the team this whole entire year has been the energy, and like, you know, for a team that relies so heavily on its play style to feed from the energy that they put into the game and to press the ball and stuff. But like set pieces doesn't require any energy to be put in. Like you just have to be defensively sound, and like you have to be like marking your zone or your man, and it's about organization, and like that's purely tactical in my opinion. You know, like you're already standing there. Like you don't have to be pressing the ball or like closing down the guy who's taking the free kick or anything. Like that's where to me it's like inexcusable from the tactical standpoint, and then it goes you look at the coaches and whatever, to see like why are you not fixing this. Man, I don't even know what to think about for like in terms of Klopp out. I know yesterday I said Klopp out. I'm on the bandwagon. I don't think that he should or needs to leave right now because honestly, like the season's gone. You know, like what is firing him now gonna do? Not gonna really like fix anything.
Do you think it's like they just like you said, the season's gone. Okay, get to the end of the year, like, and just focus on resetting right now. Focus on resetting for next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what that goal has to be is to like develop some players that maybe haven't gotten the minutes or that you might be looking to. Like this is so sad to say, but like you might be looking to like sell in the summer and try to like boost their transfer price up by giving them some good minutes. And I think what, Craig?
It's funny. It just sounds like such an evil plan.
He's a shrewd operator.
Let's play the players that suck so that we can raise their.
Well, I mean, now everyone's sucking, so you might as well play the ones that you're gonna get money from. You know, like
I have a question.
What I'm saying is that I just don't think that like firing Klopp right now would do anything. You know, I think that you might as well let him see it out. He's earned the right to me. Like he's won every single trophy possible at Liverpool, under his tenure here. He has. And I mean,
I agree with you, Clay.
And so he's earned a little bit more of a leash than someone who hasn't done anything, especially when you consider like it's not like he just inherited this like great team in a great position and then like of course he won everything. He built this squad up to what it was, and so now I want to see if he can do it again. And really, to me, like ideally, you would look at the owners to be replaced before Klopp, in my opinion, because I think that you can blame the owners for not investing as much as some other teams have. But honestly, there has been money coming into the club, and like you have been making signings that were expensive. You signed Darwin for like $100 million, and you signed Gakpo again. Like it's just like sometimes to me the transfer business and like the transfer vision, I struggle to see because you have other glaring holes in January, and you spend all your money on another forward, like your sixth forward that you have. I get that like Firmino and Diaz and Jota are all injured, but like you have bigger holes, I think, and bigger needs in other areas that could have been addressed with that money. Not to say that Gakpo is not a great and exciting player, but I think that the funds that have been available by FSG have been appropriated not wisely, to put it. Yeah. So Craig, what was your question?
Big words. Wow. Scathing critique. Yeah, what was your question?
I forget. It was something about Klopp. I think you probably answered it anyways. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with all that. It's a sad situation with Liverpool.
Yeah.
But I mean, we know that a lot of the pieces are still there. I think every club needs, and I think this is something that City has done a lot better than Liverpool, which is the reason that I think they've been more consistent over the past how many ever years. Is City have been, and Pep have been very, very strategic, very smart, and also very ruthless in the way they manage players, bring them in, bring them out, and they're always preparing for the future.
Yep.
I mean, I remember they brought in Rodri when Fernandinho was still one of the best center defensive, if not the best CDM.
Cancelo just, after 3 bad months, just got loaned out. So, like,
Yeah, and so they've done it over and over again, and people, of course, they have the money to do it. That's one thing as well. But a lot of people make fun of some of the players are saying it's like, oh, why did they need to sign Jack Grealish or these other players when why did they need to sign Calvin Phillips? Which is and they make sense at some point, but that kind of mentality is the reason that they haven't slowed down. And I get that they're slowed down right now in these few weeks, but this season as a whole, I think they're still, they haven't slowed down. They still have their players. They were doing amazingly without a striker last year. Their whole system. They had enough forwards as a whole, and they were scoring still the most goals in the league. They brought in potentially the best forward in the world, Erling Haaland, and brought him in. And they wouldn't hesitate to sign another one next year. I believe it. I truly do. They would sign another forward. Like they did this down Alvarez. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Center backs. It's all the way back. It's the entire team. They sign players everywhere, and they're always planning for the future. And that's where Liverpool didn't. They didn't really do it, except with Jota and Luis. That's really unfortunate that they got injured. They did sign backups for forwards, but the midfield has just not developed over the last 4 or 5 years, and they just lost players like Wijnaldum. And the other players like Henderson, Fabinho have just gotten older and slower and not the same level. But there's no one to replace them.
Right. It seems like unreasonable to ask, Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott to sort of carry the midfield, but that's the situation that like Liverpool find themselves because they're not like City. They're not replacing and adding players into the squad that are best in class. They're adding players that are really good, but maybe past their prime, or deferring to young players. So
yeah. And if I was able to fix them with one master stroke, is that I say that Klopp stays till the summer, the clubs get sold to somebody. It doesn't have to be Todd Bowley or whatever.
LeBron.
And like
LeBron takes the majority.
Does it have to be someone who's going to spend $1 billion in 1 year on the team? Does someone who's a little bit more willing to, not just to see the club as a financial investment and like actually want to see them win, and then you're able to give Klopp the financial backing to rebuild the squad that needs to have a serious overhaul in the summer. And one thing I do worry about is like people are saying that, oh, well, we're saving our money for Jude Bellingham, like he's going to come in the summer. But why would Jude Bellingham want to come to Liverpool right now? Other than like the allure of the history, which you can argue that the other clubs that like Real Madrid, that's just like apparently the other main rival for his signature, has a better and more like prestigious history than Liverpool. And they're in a way better state than Liverpool is. And, it's just like you can sign Jude Bellingham for however much money you want, but then are you really going to put all your eggs in your one basket of like oh, this is our one guy. Like if you sign him, then like everything is suddenly back to normal. I don't even see that happening because you still have you honestly need three new midfielders, and he's just he'd be one piece, and so it'd be a great signing. Don't get me wrong, but he's not just the answer that you can just like bank on him coming and then like, oh yeah, he's our savior. Just come back and we'll just go back and challenge for the title next year if he comes.
A lot of negativity.
Yeah,
good
I
job,
mean,
Wool.
it's hard to be
Yeah.
positive, you know.
Ruben Neves. What do you say?
Ruben Neves might have scored his first ever goal from inside the box.
That's true.
I don't know.
I mean, the third goal, I mean, you can like say, yeah, it was a good counterattack goal, but like Liverpool were trying to throw everything forward to get back into the game. Even then, though, like there was a lack of effort from Thiago, who I love, but he didn't run back, and Ruben Neves ran forward, and so then they got the ball into the box, and he was wide open, and he scored. Yeah,
That's tough, and that's the thing you're saying, like effort and energy, and those are things that you automatically associate with a Klopp side being
Yeah.
there. And if they're not there, then that could be trouble, and I guess that's what might be happening.
and there are reports of like unrest within the club too. Like I don't know what the proper title is, but like the sporting director Michael Edwards, he left, and then Julian Ward, the guy who was supposed to replace him, he's stepping down after this year because he like apparently doesn't feel like he can do his job because there's figures in the club that have more influence than they feel like they should. And so there's just different reports about, it's kind of like a chicken or the egg thing. Like, are people saying this now because they're doing poorly, or is this actually like a stimulus
Right.
or a catalyst for like what's happening? But yeah, there's
That drama is never good.
right, exactly. Like you don't want to see that within your club because as an organization you need to be run smoothly. So
Right. Okay. Well, moving on, I guess a quick word on some other fixtures. Feel free to chime in on any takeaways from these ones. But Arsenal drop points. Leaders Arsenal drop points at Goodison. But of course, Arsenal, I guess, got bailed out by Tottenham today. Everton look reinvigorated with Sean Dyche
Sean.
back.
I watched a really cool video about how he like tactically sets up his defense. He was
I want to look at that. I've been recommended that video.
Masterclass.
yeah. He like moves the little like magnets around the board and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
I
cool.
actually watched a video showing that video and then showing Everton doing something.
Yeah, I saw that. That's exactly what I saw, and it was on
their
Twitter.
first game, yeah.
Yeah,
Like Sean Dyche is rolling then.
It works.
On social media.
I'm a big fan. How can you not be a big fan of Sean Dyche? I think this is he was made to do this role, to keep a team.
he's
up
like
from
Big
being
Sam 2.0.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Big Sam 2.0. Yeah, I think he fits Everton perfectly. Like that determination, the
Mhm.
grit, the spirit that he has. I think he's exactly what they need.
I mean, it can't get any worse than like what Lampard was as a manager, like tactically. Well,
Yes.
okay, we've seen two like catastrophic failures by Lampard at. Like,
Oh wow, catastrophic failures.
it's true.
Newcastle dropped points in West Ham, but I guess they also lucked out from Spurs beating City. I don't know if you think this might be like the first hiccup in the road for Newcastle, or they might get back.
I would say the opposite, actually. I would think they would rather. I don't think Newcastle are aiming for second. They're definitely not aiming for the title. So I think Newcastle fans would have been rooting for City to beat Spurs. Now Spurs are only like a point or two behind Newcastle. Newcastle's going for top four. Probably same with United. But yeah, I think Newcastle would probably have been much happier with a City win than a City loss, and Tottenham now being breathing right down their necks.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's the recap from the past match week. If we did not
Wait,
mention
can we
your
touch?
club,
Can we
sorry.
touch on Chelsea real quick? I wanted to hear what you guys think about the egregious Chelsea transfers and what your takes are on that.
Well, Clay, That's a brilliant segue to the next segment.
Oh, nice.
Which is the transfer roundup.
Let's go.
January was a transfer window, and deadline day had a lot of deals. A lot to talk about with the transfer window. And like you mentioned, Clay, no better place to start than Chelsea. Of course, they brought in Enzo Fernandez, and yeah,
they
brought in
50% of male soccer players in the world.
They might be bringing in Clay.
I got approached by them.
If you play football and you're over the age of like 15, Chelsea is interested in your services.
It's actually really funny because back in the day, when I say back in the day, like 10-ish years ago, Chelsea's big thing was the loan army. They had all this youth talent that would go on loan. But now they just buy all the youth talent.
Yeah, it's the first team army.
Yeah, first team army. Yeah,
they have 40. I saw that they have like 39 first team players right now.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I don't know. It's an interesting situation because obviously, you know, it's a good thing to have this much money and to have an owner who's willing to spend that much money. And they're buying good players. They're buying solid players. Now, whether they're worth that much money, it doesn't matter to Todd because he has the money. He's spending it. But it's interesting because, in a way, I think this really complicates Graham Potter's life even more. Like there's a lot to be said for, you know, it's a good problem to have, you know, having so many players just like from. And that's true. I feel like that's true to a certain extent. And this might be the first time in my life that I've seen someone cross that extent by so much where it's like, please, God, Todd, stop giving me more players. It's like, how is he? Because it really is a problem to be able to manage all these players, especially if they're all good. Managing players who are good, especially who are young and are looking for their future, looking to build their career, that's really, really tough. And he has enough problems going on in Chelsea just with the performances than to worry about all these players potentially being unhappy, who they're going to lose, how he's going to keep them happy. And then not only are they spending all that money, then they might lose money on players wanting to leave the club and running out their contracts because... And so I think it has the potential to help them a lot if he finds the best 11 and best 23 for the squad or whatever and you know, gets the points. But I do think it's really, really tough, and I don't think he will probably love the situation he's in. I think it's kind of mixed bag.
We've seen the bags under his eyes already.
Yeah.
He's aged like 50 years. It looks like he's like been the president. You know how like the president of the United States always ages like.
There's like those pictures of like Obama. It's like
yeah, exactly.
2008, like 12 is like completely gone and gray.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Craig. Like, where do you even begin to like dissect the potential issues that this could cause? I mean, yeah, all these like signings in a vacuum, they were like, oh, we got Enzo Fernandez. Oh, we got Mudryk. Oh, we got like all these great signings who in a vacuum are really exciting. But does a locker room even have enough lockers for 40 people? I'm serious. I mean, I've seen videos of, you know, the inside or whatever, you know, and I don't think there's 40 lockers in Liverpool first team locker room.
Like they make them share locker, like Pulisic, you know, share with.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're on your way out, so like you guys get to share.
You and Ziyech.
Yeah, you guys are over here, or like they have to like set up. You know how like during COVID they set up like the extra lockers that were like in the middle of the training rooms, or like, which was basically just like a wooden bench. So like maybe the new guys have to sit on the wooden bench when they're like getting their pep talk, you know. I mean, it's like quite the conundrum that Graham Potter has, is because he's gonna have to appease all these players who are coming in expecting to have opportunities to play, and not to mention he already has players that are like of the name recognition are alone is going to expect them to have opportunities to play.
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys on the idea of like fit versus and need versus want. Like Potter has an idea of the type of player he wants on his squad, and this is just I mean, you know, in FIFA manager mode, players will send you messages saying like, why are you leaving me on the bench? Why am I not playing? This is that like on steroids
in real life. It's like
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see how he navigates that. I guess. And another thing here is the whole Chelsea, like the loopholes they're finding in the transfer policy, because
It's very American.
there's two sides to look at this. Like, it is very American. I think Chelsea fans might be thinking, like, hey, why are people trying to find fault with it? Like, they could have found these loopholes to benefit themselves. They didn't. We're the first ones. But I know FIFA, I think, is trying to, or maybe UEFA is trying to crack down on Chelsea's policy of extending these transfers across more than 5 years.
I bet that these clubs they knew about, okay, well, if we did this, then it could work. That I could spend twice as much money as I actually am allowed to. The thing is, like, it is incredibly risky to give players that you don't really know if they're going to work out an 8-year-long contract, because even if they don't work out, you still owe them all that money over that long period of time, and like I texted this to you guys, but it kind of reminds me, and it would make sense because in the America Bowl, he owns the Los Angeles Dodgers and the MLB team. It really reminds me, a lot of these contracts remind me of the super long contracts that MLB players get sometimes, that they're like ridiculous 10-year, $400 million contracts where the first 3 or 4 years are great, but then once the player starts inevitably aging, then that contract becomes like one of the worst in the league. And and then if the player doesn't perform for the first 3 years, then it's just awful. Yeah, I just don't know. It's just so risky that, like, I bet that other teams knew about it, but no one had the I guess the balls to try it out and see how it was gonna work.
Dude, I'll say it, I'm a big fan. I love this dude. He's like a walking meme. Yeah, it's awesome. Even as a rival fan, it's like it's just funny. I just think it's so funny. He just like walks in, and it's almost like he'll see a player, or he'll just hear about a player. It's like, oh yeah, and then but the next day they buy him. He was like on. I saw these tweets that he was like on like the Chelsea fans like Twitter space where they having like on Twitter you can do this thing where you like listen to someone or something. I don't know,
Spaces.
Or, like, a group. Yeah, and he logged into that. He was listening to them talking about what players they want. And
he's like down there taking notes. He's like, okay. My to-do list tomorrow: contact this guy named Mudryk.
Yeah, exactly. That's just how I picture him. I just think he's gotten involved in football and wants to make a big impact. He's like, yeah, I want to do well. I'm buying Chelsea. And I feel like I could have gone on that fan thing and said something about, I don't know,
Phil Jones.
Sean Longstaff being the best, Phil Jones being the next big player, and he would probably be like, oh, okay, look into I'd sign him. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how it works out for sure.
Just throwing his money at everything. It's crazy. And then I guess, speaking of Chelsea, there were two midfield moves that came out of nowhere on deadline day. One of them was ex-Chelsea man Jorginho leaving to join cross-London rival Arsenal. And then another was the big shock. Manchester United actually made a move very quickly, and they got Marcel Sabitzer from Bayern Munich. So yeah, I don't know if you guys had any reactions to those two. I know some Arsenal fans, they feel mixed about the Jorginho deal because they think that, like, in the past they've signed Chelsea rejects, and this is a continuation of that. But on the other side, like, Jorginho, he's a winner. He's won the Euros. He's won the Champions League. He was a Ballon d'Or potential winner. So maybe he brings a lot to the squad.
I think Jorginho signing is fine. They don't need him. They didn't sign him to start in the midfield.
No.
And it can't hurt, like you said, to have that experience in the locker room, on the bench, in a big game where you need someone level-headed who can kind of come on and control the midfield and knows how to manage a game.
Yeah.
Can come on and do it. I don't think it can hurt. By the way, give credit to Arsenal. I think they've done some really, really smart business. We already talked about their business in the summer and how they've been building really well under Arteta. The Trossard signing, that's a brilliant little, like, under-the-radar signing that he had his thing with Brighton, he left. Anyone could have picked him up. They just went, no big deal, got it done. And you could even see in the I think the United game is when he came on, and you could already see he was brilliant. He was instrumental for that last goal. He was super, I don't know, sprightly is the new word we've been using.
Is that even a
And I
word?
think that's great. Yeah, it's a word. And look it up. He's a great player, and he's experienced too. By the way, I didn't realize how old he was, to be honest with you, because we haven't been talking about him for that long. But yeah, I think that's a good deal of business, and then a good business deal. And then the Sabitzer, I'm biased. I'm interested to hear your guys' perspective, but I think that's awesome. The fact that someone tweeted this, it's like Manchester United really desperation signed Casemiro and Sabitzer this year. It's like the whole window we were going for like Rabiot and like these other random players that didn't work out over the summer. And that didn't work out. And then right at the end, we ended up in a day or two being like, all right, we're going to go for Casemiro. And we got him because we couldn't get anyone else. And he's the best, he's been the best or one of the best defensive midfielders in the world for the last 5-7 years. And now Sabitzer, he's obviously newer, much more exciting, and he can play kind of a box-to-box role. He can do a little bit of everything. He was on Bayern for a reason because he was really, really exciting the year before that. He hasn't quite gotten his chance at Bayern and hasn't been able to shine, but, Eriksen got injured, couldn't find anyone, deadline day, boom. Sabitzer, I think that's a great signing, and I think those are two really, really, that's one really, really strong signing that we made in the deadline day. And then Weghorst, who we haven't talked about. I'll be honest, I've been really impressed with Weghorst from the United game that I've watched ever since he signed. Bless you, Clay.
Thank you.
I've been really impressed with him. I think it's awesome. He's doing something that no one else on the team could do. Maybe we had Cavani who used to be able to do that, but he was always injured before. But yeah, he's just this big striker who can hold up the ball. His hold up play is awesome. His link up play is fantastic. And I'm just seeing United attack in ways that they haven't been able to attack through him. Like just going straight up the center, playing the ball. He'll do a brilliant little layoff, and the midfielder's in. Bruno's in. Eriksen's in. Anthony cutting in, whatever. Rashford's in. It's awesome. But he's not just a big striker who can do that, because and this was known before, but he's known for his pressing, and you can tell that in the game. The amount of pressure he puts the entire game on the goalkeeper and on the defenders and wins the ball back is really good, and he's actually a very good footballer. I've been impressed with him, even though he hasn't scored every game or anything like that. But I think it'll come.
But you don't need him to score if Rashford's bagging goals every single game. So
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Sometimes with the big lads, they might be a little clumsy with the feet, or like you said, maybe not be as good of a footballer. But no, he's been really, really sharp.
Yeah. I think that it was definitely essential for United to bring in a short-term replacement for Eriksen. He's been really, really key to them, and the news that he was going to be out for such a long time. If they really were serious about challenging for the top four, and who knows, maybe even more this season, then they needed to bring in something, because we know that McFred is not going to bring you to Champions League. Yeah.
That's a good point, Clay. And actually, now that you mentioned that, I think these next few games are going to be pivotal, because he's come in right away when we needed him for Eriksen, and now Casemiro's out too.
Yep.
And so all of a sudden, potentially our two best players, Rashford's kind of he's been good all season, but recently he's been amazing. Potentially our two best players, who've changed the team, Casemiro and Eriksen, are both out, and that midfield, which is the reason we're able to play well this year, is completely gone, and it's just Bruno now. So it's probably going to be Fred, Sabitzer, Bruno midfield over the next 3 games, and that's a lot of changes. So I think it'll be huge to see how he can perform, and there'll be a lot of expectation, and he'll be expected to do both roles, kind of Casemiro and Eriksen's role a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not like Sabitzer was, sitting around doing nothing. Like, the Bayern midfield is incredibly tough to break. Goretzka and Kimmich and whoever else is
Musiala.
Chicken Muller. So yeah, that's a tough midfield to break into. So they'll have a chance, I guess, to make a direct impact at United. And then another random thought I had is that because that deal is a loan deal, so United isn't, committing themselves to anything. It's just a short-term loan. I feel like the number of loan deals that have been happening in the transfer windows have been a lot more than, say, 10 years ago. Which maybe it's just because sides think, loans are less risky. They only have to hold on to a player for a few months, and don't need to make a decision on them. But I don't know. I think the loan deal is a good type of deal because it gives you the option to assess a player, see how they fit with your squad, and then nowadays everyone's doing these like loan plus buy and all these different types.
It's getting complicated for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, historically, you just think that players get loaned out to like they're youngsters that need to get first team experience, and so they get loaned out to a lower league, and then they either perform or they don't, and then the next year they either get a shot to break into the squad or they don't. But yeah, we've seen different players from all sorts of leagues across the world being loaned out, like first team players, to big teams.
Yeah.
Like
Before
Arthur.
it was just for
Like Archer to Liverpool.
big teams. Yeah. Elsewhere, Nottingham Forest. We were talking about Chelsea and their transfer spending. We have to do an investigation into Nottingham Forest at some point. They brought in like Keylor Navas and ex-Liverpool legend John Joe Shelby also.
They probably, between the two clubs, they probably actually own like 15% of all professional soccer players in the world. I mean,
I think they signed like 30 or 40 guys this year.
This is ridiculous. And as Craig points out, they don't even have a sponsor on their kit. So I was like, how do they get the money for this? Danny Ings to West Ham. As Mikel Antonio, there's like reports he might be leaving. So an interesting window. Here's a trivia question I heard on transfer deadline day. What signing gave the most return on investment to a club? So club
in history?
Yeah. So club bought a player, then they sold that same player and made a big return on that investment.
So it can't be like a youth player that you sell because that's like infinity because you don't like sell them for okay.
Right.
Well, I know that I texted to you guys that like Benfica made it over 1,000% on Enzo in 6 months. Man.
Yeah, Enzo comes to mind. You know who else comes to mind? Pogba. Because I think Juventus got him for free the first time from United. Sold him back to United for like 100 mil, and then got him back for free. Which they used to take that into account as well, by the way. The fact that
They double dipped. They
got him again for free. I mean, how do you even calculate? The math doesn't work if the first number is 0. You can't calculate a percent. Yeah.
Yeah, according to this, the Darren Bent podcast or whatever, his co-host, there's Neymar because of, I guess, when PSG...
Santos?
They spent like 200 something mil. Oh, and I forgot about that.
So, from Neymar from Barcelona to PSG?
Yeah. That's still the biggest ever, right? Oh, no, Coutinho was pretty big? Not that big.
No, he wasn't that big. He was like the Neymar replacement.
To Villa, right? Okay. Well, I think we have arrived at our third and final segment, if we're ready for that.
Let's do it.
And that is a game called Who He Play For.
Oh.
So, who he play for?
We have lost control of basic verbs in the
Who
English
he play for?
Who he play for? Inspiration from...
Were you guys playing that caveman game recently or something?
The Codename game?
No, the caveman game. Where you like bong?
Oh, yeah. That's a fun game.
Neanderthal.
If any NBA fans, there's a show Inside the NBA with Ernie Johnson, Charles Barkley, Kenny the Jet Smith, Shaq. They do this at the beginning of every year where, there's trades that have happened, players have signed X teams, so they'll quiz Charles Barkley on 5 players to see if he kept up with the recent moves. And so they ask him who he played for, like Kevin Durant. But it's usually like, tougher than LeBron James.
I'll preface by saying, I fully expect you to whoop me in this.
Oh, is it you versus me?
I think
so it would be you two.
I think it's you versus me, and especially if it's like current. It's current, right? Like
it's current, but it's not limited to the Prem.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying.
Boy.
I fully expect you to, because all these, from FIFA, everyone in the Italian league and all these people that I don't even know.
So the way it's gonna work, I'm gonna show you a player. You have to tell me who he played for.
Who he played for? Okay.
And yeah, you'll write it down on like a sticky piece of paper, and then we'll count down 3, 2, 1, and then you'll show it to the camera. What does this say, Clay?
Gareth Bale.
Yeah, that is correct. So
Did you have to read that backwards?
No.
no,
Okay.
for some reason press it. But you're gonna be writing on a team. Wait, so Craig, close your eyes. I'm gonna be sharing my screen. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hopefully that works.
Wait. Oh, because you have something to share.
Yeah. Let's
Can I have a
let's
pen? You have a pen on your desk or a pencil?
Yes. If that works.
Who do you play for?
Here we go.
I'm just use the same post-it note. And we'll just cross it out.
Can you see this, Clay?
I can.
Okay. Great. I think I'll just have to alt that to you. Okay, yeah.
Okay, welcome to Who He Play For.
All right. So, for example, this is an example, right?
Oh, I know this
Enzo
one.
Fernandez. Okay, yeah, you would write. What do you guys write?
Wait. Let me take 1 second to format this real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, Clay's in the process of becoming a certified OBS expert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see how it's worked out and stuff. I'm not too optimistic, honestly.
Oh no.
I think that there's been a little bit of lag, and because like I can see like the stats of the recording and stuff, and it says it's like 5 FPS. So, yeah.
That's not very good.
No, not ideal. So I'll have to do some research on how to bump that up in the future.
FPS fouls per show.
Fouls per show. Yes.
So, Clay, can you see the picture of Enzo?
I can.
Okay, good.
Okay, here we go. This will be fine for now. You just won't be able to see our face.
Okay,
Oh, actually,
so
wait.
this
But
is
we need to see the cameras too, right? To like hold up the name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't we do instead of that can we change the format to like you just ask one of us and then it passes on to the other person, they get half a point.
Sure.
No.
Okay.
Oh, let
Maybe
me
you
just
could just
give
shout
me
it out.
like 2 seconds. I can edit
Okay.
it. I can edit this too. So.
Yeah, talk about
We'll
something.
stall.
Talk about something in the meantime, Hemant.
So transfer deadline day. Oh
Wow.
I should have saved my trivia question for this.
Well, I have a trivia question for you. I don't know the answer to this question, but based off of your question, what are your guys' guesses for the reverse of that question? What player has been the worst ROI for a club? They sign for a lot of money, and then again, Pogba comes to mind for United because they signed him for 100 mil, 80 mil, something, and then lost him for free. Any other?
Yeah, that's got to be.
Coutinho's got to be up there. How much did
Barca.
Liverpool pay or Villa pay for Coutinho? Not a lot. Surely.
Not a lot. Surely
Not a
not.
lot. Yeah, Coutinho's got to be up there.
Griezmann, Lukaku. Whatever happened with the whole Chelsea?
Dude.
Is he on loan or is he gone to Inter Milan? I think he's on loan.
Is he?
Who, Lukaku?
I think he's still a Chelsea player.
I think Lukaku is.
He's on loan at Inter. That should be a who you
Yeah.
play for question.
Oh, maybe it is. Lukaku appears twice in the list of like top 5 or like top 7 most expensive Premier League prem signings.
Wow. Chelsea and United.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I can't remember. So he went to Milan from United.
Yeah.
How much did we get for him? I don't remember that. I don't think we got a lot. I don't think
Probably.
Milan paid a lot for Lukaku.
Both times. Milan got him on the cheap.
Or maybe we did. Maybe they did. I think they paid decent actually.
Lukaku is one of the
he
biggest
did well.
swindlers.
Swindlers.
Yeah, he's a swindler. All right, we're set up. We're good. We're good now.
Do you think the Benfica like president is like just
He's just laughing at everybody.
eating popcorn with the Darwin sale and the Enzo sale? Like
Yeah.
probably way more than you ever dreamed you'd get. All right,
Yeah.
we're good, Clay.
Yeah, we're good for now. I'll iron out
Okay.
I iron it out later, but yeah, it's good.
Your first player and who he play for. See, look at the animation. See, it's Chelsea FC. First player Daily Blind.
Oh, man.
Daily Blind. Who he play for?
Wait, so I write it down, right?
Yeah, write it down. A name we're all familiar with.
Oh, man.
The ageless wonder. Daily Blind. The Dutchman. Of course, Craig remembers him fondly. His days as a Red Devil. Alright, Clay, do you have an answer?
I do.
Wait, Craig, write it. Are you gonna write it like bigger? Okay, well,
Oh, is that too small?
Yeah.
Well, you can't see it when you hold up to the camera.
I can't even read it.
It's because
What are you gonna put like all your answers on one sticky note?
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Reveal.
Oh, I
Craig
knew
put
that. Dang it.
Besiktas,
Oh,
and Clay put
dang
FC
it.
Bayern Munchen.
I knew. Man.
And that is
I
Craig's
knew.
answer.
I
Hey.
knew that he left Ajax. I couldn't remember where he went.
Hey, Turkish league actually is a good shout for like older players that aren't good anymore, or like older players.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Daily Blind. So, Daily, if you're, I know you'll probably be watching this at some point. I knew that you went to Bayern. I just.
We'll still have you on as a guest, even though Craig disrespected you.
Yeah, Daily, no, even though Craig says he's a big fan, Clay clearly a closet super fan.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, you can't even name 2 other clubs that he played for.
What? Other than Bayern Munich?
Yeah.
Well, Ajax and United.
All right, moving on. Chris Wood.
Oh, I know
Chris
this one.
Wood. Who he play for? Chris Wood. Chris Wood. He's been a mainstay in the Prem for the past Irish seasons. Where's Chris Wood now?
Where art thou?
Wherefore art thou?
All right.
Who he play for? 3, 2, 1. Reveal. We have Notts Forest and Notts Forest.
Hey,
That is
just watched
the
him play
correct
today.
answer. Nottingham Forest on loan. Yeah, Nottingham Forest. Like,
What a silly. Wait, I was actually thinking about this while Nottingham Forest was playing today. Didn't Chris Wood sign for Newcastle for like a decent amount of money? He was one of their first signings after they got like the
Yeah.
financial takeover.
He
What a-
was one of their. He was a signing. I didn't know. I don't remember how much money he signed for. I remember because they signed Callum Wilson last year. That was like their striker, and then they signed Chris Wood as well. I
Yeah,
don't know what we're doing.
and Chris Wood. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I think that you know what you're gonna get for Chris Wood, and that you would think that like a new team with all that money would be aiming a little bit higher than like he's in my opinion a relegation striker.
Shots fired.
Yeah, don't
To Chris
disrespect.
Wood.
Don't disrespect Chris Wood.
All right, moving on. Luis Suarez.
Oh.
Luis Suarez. Some would say a modern legend. Who he play for? Luis Suarez.
Oh man.
Luis Suarez. Have you been keeping up to date with the transfer?
I know. I think that he left the team he was on.
That is.
But I don't know.
That's a good instinct.
I don't know. I have no idea, honestly. Here. Mm.
Who he play for? Interesting, Craig. Luis Suarez. And some would say, Luis Suarez, if you want to find him, you can find him at your local diner enjoying a bite. I just thought of that right now.
That was
All
good.
right, 3, 2, 1. Reveal. Clay's gone with Inter Milan, and Craig has gone with
No, he went into Miami.
Inter Miami. South American.
Team.
South American team. He scored a hattie on his debut. I have been keeping up with him. I just don't know who he plays for.
Craig, you are on the right track. Yeah, he plays for Grêmio, which is in
Probably not South America.
Brazil.
Oh, it is. Okay, then why'd you set me up like that?
I said you were on the right track.
Okay. Yeah, see, I've been following him, and I know he scored a hat trick on his debut. It was awesome.
When you started writing, I thought you were saying you're gonna write Southampton. Okay, Luis Suarez.
Clay, as a Liverpool fan, really should have done better there.
He's Clay.
Yeah, sorry I didn't get Gremio.
Now, a United legend, Memphis. Who he play for? Memphis Depay. I mean, these are superstars we're talking about here.
Yeah.
You know, surely you're tracking the movement of
The
these
creme
guys.
de la creme.
The creme de la
I
creme.
read all this. I just can't remember what happened.
Craig's trying to remember. Clay seems like he might have his answer.
Oh, my answer is down.
Ooh.
All right, calm down.
Craig's writing somewhere in South America. What if Luis Suarez isn't Messi supposed to go to Inter Miami at some point?
That's
Okay.
the rumor. We'll see.
3, 2, 1. Reveal. Atleti says Clay, and you also. What do you?
Atletico.
Atletico.
Let's go.
Oh, you don't know that's right. That is correct.
Hey!
Get back to me.
Nice.
Very well done. Yeah, I remember. I think I was watching a recent game with him, like maybe the Derby, and I was like, is that Memphis? So yeah, interesting. And then wrapping it up, our final contestant, a fan favorite, and a nod to Clay Troyer, Brian Hill, who he played for.
Oh,
First
man.
of all, if I didn't have the name, would you have recognized this was Brian Hill? Would you have thought this was a member of the
I
Beatles?
thought it was like Cruyff or something.
Oh.
Yeah, he looks like that's a picture from like the 60s.
Wait. Just help me out a bit here. So he's not on Tottenham?
He's
he
not.
moved? Okay.
He left
So
Tottenham.
either on loan or bought somewhere. He's
Correct.
Gone? Okay.
Correct.
Glad to see you have a great. You know
Huh?
exactly where he went, Craig.
What'd you say?
It seems like you know exactly where he went. Then, if you didn't even know that he was still on.
Do you want a hint? Should I give a hint?
Yeah.
It's a Big 5 league in Europe.
Okay.
England, Spain, Germany, Italy.
Spain.
Yeah, I have an answer. I have an answer.
Oh,
Yeah, mine
okay,
was also
okay, okay. Ooh, okay. Interesting shout. 3, 2, 1. Reveal. Sevilla. Well done, lads.
Let's go.
Hey.
Craig wrote Sporting and then crossed that out.
Nah, I wrote Sporting Sevilla. That's the
Sporting
full
Sevilla.
name.
Is it?
Impressive. My final tally is Craig, you got 3 of 5 correct, and Clay, you got 4 of 5. The only one you didn't get was
Hey.
Luis Suarez. I don't know if I gave you
Yeah,
Luis Suarez.
I got 4 or 5. I got
Whoa! You got 3.5 of 5. No. Okay, then I could have just put like somewhere in the world as every single answer and gotten it
I
right.
even said scored Hattie on debut.
Wait, Clay, you knew the Brian Hill one before I gave you the hint?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Is it? I told
Me
you,
too,
Clay
me
is
too,
the
me too.
biggest Brian Hill fan. He's always asking for Brian Hill to get more playing time.
No, I'd rather him than Richarlison.
Well done, boys. That concludes who he played for.
Did you ask these players to use their likeness?
I did. I didn't ask Brian Hill.
Okay.
He might be the only one I need to ask. He's probably like under the age.
No, that's
of
okay.
consent.
His likeness when expired 150 years ago.
His likeness is Paul
You know,
McCartney.
yeah, you might have the Beatles or freaking Beethoven suing you for copyright using it. All right,
lads.
wrap it up, Clay.
That was fun time. I think the cameras are all messed up now, but we're working through some. We're working through some technical stuff. Hopefully, we'll be able to bring a more polished product to you. And yeah, stay tuned for our big announcement. It's going to be, let me just say, podcast changing. It's going to reform.
Wow.
It's going to reform not just our podcast, but the podcast landscape as you know it.
Whoa. Whoa.
We are the icebreaker plowing through glaciers. I don't even know if that's a thing. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna be breaking down glaciers with what we're doing. We're gonna be moving mountains, okay? And this is the first step here. But just let me tell you is that we have a long ways to go.
Cue the outro.
All right. In all seriousness, we do actually have some big announcements. So for you guys listening. Daily Blend. Stay tuned for them because they're coming. Yeah, let's talk to you guys next time.